Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. We're off tomorrow for the 4th of July. Tony, how are you going to spend the holiday weekend?
Tony Kornheiser golfing, napping, confiscating pickleballs. Not a fan of pickleball. Not me.
No,
not a big fan.
But you know what, though, Tony?
Welcome to pickleball. Go ahead.
Who has more Achilles injuries? The NBA in the spring or pickleball every week?
If you look at a pickleball court, somebody over the age of 60 is going down in a heap once an hour. Welcome to PTI, yes. Boys and girls. Today's episode, Clayton Kershaw's historic strikeout, USA's win over Guatemala, and Patrick McEnroe joins us from Wimbledon for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the Los Angeles Lakers finally getting a big man. They signed former overall #1 pick 7-foot Deandre Ayton to a 2-year contract. Ayton had just been released by Portland, where he had played the last 2 seasons. He averaged 14 points and 10 rebounds for the Trailblazers this past season, playing just 40 games. Wilbon, what does this do for the Lakers, and how does it affect how you see the West?
It improves the Lakers, and it probably does more specifically for Luka Doncic than LeBron. I mean, Doncic, is, vocal and has been in management situations where he played in Dallas and now the Lakers about the kind of player, Ayton, who he really can tag team with and take advantage of, a lob threat at the rim. We hear that. Ayton's defense is spotty. He can be a rim defender. He can be a lot of things, but he can also just take nights off. We saw that even when Chris Paul had to go to the, I'm going to use this jockey phrase, to the whip hand and really press him to get them to the finals in 2021 when the Suns got there, and that was the best of Ayton. But you had Chris Paul really riding him to get there. I don't know. Is Luka that guy? Can Luka do that? LeBron can do that. But who's going to get that out of Ayton? Are they now even with Oklahoma City and Houston? And no, they're not. Not even Minnesota to me. Not even Dallas to me. No, they're not. But this is a step in the right direction for the Lakers, and that's where it starts. Just a step. They got more to go.
I'm going to go in a different direction and tell you that the most important thing this does, in my mind, is guarantee that LeBron will be there all year. LeBron James now finally has a big man who will play like a big man, not drift out there and take threes. That's what they were lacking last year. Luka Doncic was their #1 rebounder. That's not going to happen now. I mean, I understand DeAndre Ayton hasn't been what people thought he was going to be, but he has also averaged 16 and 10 throughout his career. And he's going to be a presence for this particular team. And so the threatening comments that were made by LeBron James and Rich Paul 7 to 10 days ago about you better work on what's happening with the Lakers, the implied threat was that LeBron would want to leave. Well, they worked on it. They gave him a credible big man. Not an incredible big man, but a credible big man. They can reset, and Mike, I think it could be a big deal, and I think they could become true contenders in the West. True contenders.
Tony, they're not, but this is not the finishing touch. By the way, some credit to Rob Pelinka, who every year there's sort of, they got to do this, they got to do that. And he's done this multiple times, got into a conference championship round anyway, 2 seasons ago, 2 postseasons ago, and he got him Luka just falling out of the heavens, and now Deandre Ayton. These guys were the numbers 1 and 3 overall picks in their draft not too long ago. So this is a nice move. It's not the finishing move. Let's not get crazy. Let's move to baseball, where Clayton Kershaw did something last night only 19 pitchers had done before him. Kershaw struck out White Sox third baseman Vinny Capra for his 3,000th career K. There are fewer players who have reached 3,000 strikeouts and 3,000 hits, Tone. So how significant is this milestone in your mind?
Well, he is the 20th ever. He's only the 4th left-hander. Steve Carlton, Randy Johnson, CC Sabathia, they're all in the Hall of Fame. Kershaw is going to the Hall of Fame. So are the 2 active players who are on this list right now. Scherzer and Verlander, they're going to the Hall of Fame. I don't know all that much to make about it because a lot of these pitchers are what I would call modern pitchers, where the strikeout is now more important, more prevalent than it was, say, 40 or 50 years ago. I was surprised, Mike, speaking of lefties, Warren Spahn, not on this list. I'm not surprised by Koufax because he didn't pitch long enough. All of these 20 guys are either going to the Hall of Fame or are in the Hall of Fame, with two exceptions, Curt Schilling and Roger Clemens, and Clemens is out right now because of the PEDs. I noted that there are fewer guys to 3,000 strikeouts than 3,000 hits. Is that supposed to tell us it's harder to get to 3,000 strikeouts? And I wonder, Mike, is there going to be another one? Or is this it? Because they don't pitch a lot of innings anymore. Will Chris Sale get there? Will Garrett Cole get there? Will anybody ever get there? I don't know.
Yeah, Tony, it's interesting when you just go down the list, and I started it just before we went on the air. I wanted to know the top five, and Nolan Ryan, Randy Johnson, Clemens, Carlton, and Blyleven. Blyleven sort of surprises me there, but he pitched like 23, 24 years. But then, Tony, it's a nice note that you make about the sort of the modern nature of the list, although we're old enough now that you have to put Gibson and Jenkins, the two people that I grew up watching the most, like they're straddling that, right? They're not back with Walter Johnson, but it's been 60 years. I mean, it's been a long time for Gibson and Jenkins, and I'm glad they're on that list. So you look at the list, and it's quite representative to me. I found it fascinating to go through, and Kershaw, good for him. I just, I don't know what's more important, that or sort of, what are we going to remember, that or postseason success, postseason struggles, World Series rings, like what, where do you fall down? Maybe all of it. Maybe it's a tapestry of all of it.
Good for him that he did it in L.A. with the only team he has ever played for. Only Gibson, and there's one other, Walter Johnson, went all the way down with one team. Let's move to soccer quickly, where last night in St. Louis, the United States men's happy time. People, happy 58th birthday, Brian Cashman. Sneaky young, considering Cashman has been the general manager of the New York Yankees since 1998. That's 27 years. Cashman is the longest tenured GM in baseball. If George Steinbrenner were still alive and running the team, there is no way anyone in the Yankee organization would have a job for that long. Cashman started with the Yankees as an intern in 1986 after graduating from Catholic University, where he played the infield. Cashman was at the helm of the Yankees when they won 3 straight World Series under Joe Torre from 1998 through 2000. He had another World Series winner under Joe Girardi in 2009, and he's waiting for his first one with Aaron Boone.
For a long time there, if you mentioned Cashman, it seemed you had to mention Theo Epstein, because they were the Yanks and the Sox, and they're fighting back and forth, and then their roads diverged, and they both had wildly successful careers, it seems to me.
Happy anniversary, Martina Navratilova. On this day 43 years ago, Navratilova beat Chris Evert 6-1, 3-6, 6-2 for the first of her 6 straight Wimbledon titles. Navratilova ended up with 9 Wimbledon titles and 18 majors overall. Evert also won 18 majors, including 7 French Opens and 6 U.S. Opens. The two contested 80 matches between 1973 and 1988, 60 of which were finals. Navratilova was 43-37 in the head-to-heads with Evert, 36-20 finals. They are the most prolific tennis rivalry of the Open era. Evert and Navratilova were great rivals who became best friends. There is a story about their friendship by Sally Jenkins in the Washington Post that will warm your heart.
As a lifelong consumer of tennis, Tony, I always feel enriched when I got to see them play each other. And as you mentioned, usually at the end of a tournament for the championship, nothing like it.
Yeah. Happy trails to extra bases for Riley Green. The Tiger slugger hit one deep to left center last night. Nats center fielder Jacob Young tracked it, scaled the fence, and came away with an improbable catch. Young said he thought the ball was going to travel farther, but it died by the wall, so he ended up backhanding it at shoulder height. Here's a fun fact, Mike. Riley Green, and Jacob Young played travel ball together as teenagers in Florida.
I never get tired of seeing these at-the-wall or over-the-wall catches. All night long you can go with them, and they just all seem to be thrilling.
And every day somebody says the best catch of the year, and it's not. The next day is the best catch of the year as well. Let's go to the big finish. Your guy, The Miz, gave up 5 earned and 3 2/3. He took the loss to the Mets last night. How'd that taste?
Tasted great. We got a half game on the Brewers who split. Come on now. Tasted great to have a cheesehead get rocked. Blue Jays beat the Yanks last night and caught them atop the AL East. I bet you think that's significant.
Yeah, I think anytime you're in first place, even if you're tied, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's significant. Red Panda's out of the hospital after breaking her left wrist when she fell off her unicycle. Your thoughts?
Sally's going to miss a few months, apparently, but she's just a great athlete, one of the best in the arena any night she's there. James Wood of the Nats joined a home run derby, the home run derby. I bet you're excited.
I am, because he hits the ball harder than anybody in the National League other than Shohei Ohtani. You know, I'd love to see him in a home run derby. Last one, CFL tonight. Winnipeg Blue Bombers at the Calgary Stampeders. Are you smelling upset?
I don't really need to be predicting Canadian football, but I'm going to watch, Tony, when I'm not peeking at the Cubs, Cleveland, and the rubber match of that. Not the rubber, going for the sweep.
We watch everything. We're out of time. Try and do better the next time, and I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. We're off until Monday, knuckleheads. Enjoy the holiday weekend. And now, here's sports.
Kershaw reaching a milestone last night, and the Lakers finally making a move in free agency. So let's start there. The Lakers acknowledged they were a donut team last season, missing that big man in the middle to guard the rim and run the pick and roll with Luka Doncic. They filled the need with Deandre Ayton, the former #1 pick who worked out a buyout with the Blazers this offseason. Now, there are plenty of notable names still available in free agency. Veterans Chris Paul, Al Horford, and Damian Lillard are all unrestricted free agents, while a core of young players paced by Josh Giddey and Jonathan Kuminga are restricted free agents. NBA insider Shams Charania tells us who to keep an eye on.
Chris Paul has levels of interest from the Clippers, Suns, and the Bucks. I'm told he had a conversation with Bucks officials on Wednesday. He told the Pat McAfee show several weeks ago that his preference is to stay on the West Coast. He is sorting through options, though, right now, whether it's on the West Coast, a team like Milwaukee. We'll see where his future could go. Al Horford is another major free agent right now. I'm told he is reviewing multiple options, including the Warriors, the Lakers, but also retirement. He's 39 years old. He just finished season 18. I'm told it would be a surprise if he makes a final decision by this weekend. He certainly earned the right to make a decision at his own time. I will say, though, that the Warriors are hopeful about where they stand in all this if Al Horford decides to play again.
This is the best of a bad situation right now, I think, with Mike Brown. I think, you know, it felt like it was going to be impossible to win the press conference and win the announcement once you get rid of somebody like Tib.
Is that it's no longer about, hey, just do the same thing they've done, which is back-to-back 50-win seasons, reach the Eastern Conference Finals. Now it's more. Now, to me, the expectation is the NBA Finals.
He definitely steps into a finals or bust type of situation. That's the expectation of the ownership, of the front office. It's finals or bust for them.
They have built themselves out of what was nothing into a team that really, now you consider them a championship contender, which is something we haven't been able to say about this franchise in a quarter century.
The problem is if it's finals or bust, and you have a coach that is not as tied to the management as the previous coach, even though this coach and Mike Brown is more accomplished than the previous coach, I'm nervous on Mike Brown's behalf that there's going to be a quick hook.
You know, they say New York fans are the most educated basketball fans. I say most emotional. They act like Mike Brown's a scrub. The guy has won 4 championships under some good head coaches there.
I know, but that's a high-pressure situation. 50 years of no pressure to try to get back to an NBA championship. But speaking of, this is an educated reporter, an educated fan, Tim. I don't know who you support. Tim Bontemps joins us now for more. Tim, you weren't in that montage because we want to get your reaction here and now. And you covered the Knicks for a long time. What have you heard from around the team about expectations surrounding Mike Brown?
I was going to say I was briefly insulted because I wasn't on there after being on TV all morning. But no, look, obviously the Knicks fans and the New York City in general is obviously desperate to end what is now, as you said, Christina, a 52-year championship drought for the Knicks going back to 1973. And as Tim McMahon said during that montage, there's no question that after Tom Thibodeau was fired after making the conference finals for the first time in 25 years with the Knicks, Mike Brown is going to walk in here with only one objective, which is to get to the NBA Finals and to try to end that drought. If the Knicks fall anywhere short of that, it's going to be seen as a disappointment. But to Brian's point about the emotional nature of Knicks fans, I want to take everybody back to 1995 when the New York Yankees, coming off making the playoffs, fired Buck Showalter, a very popular manager, under an unpopular owner at the time in George Steinbrenner, similar to James Dolan, an imperious guy. And they went and hired Joe Torre, a guy who was 55 years old, like Mike Brown, who had coached in 3 stops before, like Mike Brown, and who had not won a championship before, like Mike Brown. And at the time, to Brian's point, he was called Clueless Joe on the back page of the Daily News. That was seen as a terrible hire. There was no way it was going to work. And the outcome of that was 12 straight trips to the playoffs and 4 championships. Now, I'm not saying Mike Brown is going to lead the Knicks into the next dynasty in the NBA, but it is a sign that he is an accomplished coach and he's inheriting a team that's got a chance to win, and now he's got an opportunity to try to do so.
Yeah, certainly accomplished. I mean, he's former two-time Coach of the Year there in the NBA. So we talked about coaches. Let's talk about some of the players because there's still a number of important free agents available. Who you got your eyes on, Tim?
To me right now, Brian, the number one free agent on the board is restricted free agent with the Golden State Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga, who's in a fascinating situation. We saw in the second round of the playoffs when Steph Curry was out with an injury. Kuminga was a big-time scorer in that series against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He showed in the playoffs that he can have an impact in games in the postseason. That being said, we've also seen throughout his time with the Warriors a lot of inconsistent up-and-down play, which has led him to go in and out of Steve Kerr's rotation. And Jonathan Kuminga, as a result, as a wing with the athletic gifts that he has, is really a Rorschach test for NBA talent evaluators, a guy that some people can see and look at and say that he's going to be an all-star, and others that aren't a huge fan of his game. And now he's got to go out into a marketplace with no cap space and try to get either a deal from Golden State or to try to get a sign and trade deal with someone else. It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, and it's part of why the Warriors have sort of been in